Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tristate with Tiny and Katie.
Joining us on Let's Talk Tristate right now, we have Cindy McGrew. She is the founder and CEO of Operation Second Chance. How are you, Cindy?
I'm great, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you today. You and I personally have talked about Operation Second Chance over the years, but we've never had a chance to feature them on Let's Talk Tristate yet until today, and we're going to rectify that. We love our military. We love second chances, and when the two of those go hand in hand, you have Operation Second Chance. Cindy, can you take us through the genesis of your story, how you came to be the founder of Operation Second Chance?
Sure. Well, first, it started with my brothers. I have three brothers that served during Vietnam or in Vietnam, and one of my brothers went to West Point for 2 years. And I just saw how my brothers were treated when they came home. One of them was injured and received a Purple Heart. And as a child, I heard their night tremors and so forth. And I just vowed at a young age to do as much as I could for our future veterans. And then in 2004, a friend of mine went to Iraq, and he was attached to the Stryker Brigade unit. And I started reading about guys that were wounded and coming to Walter Reed. The first one I read about was shot in the head by a sniper. And the dad kept a blog every single day, and I would get to work in the morning and read his blog, and it just really tore at my heart, and I wanted to do something. So I sent him an email and I said, I just work 30 miles north of the hospital. I'd love to come sit with your son so you and your wife could get a break and or run any errands. And he sent me back an email and said he appreciated the offer, and if they needed anything, they would contact me. And then I knew right away that they weren't going to reach out to a total stranger for help. So about 10 days later, I read about 7 soldiers that were ambushed in an alley and another one that lost his left arm in an RPG attack. So this time I went straight to the webmaster and I said, I'm really serious about wanting to help. And he gave me all of their names, and the one that lost his arm was his own son. So, it hit me even harder. And I keep saying I got it in Walter Reed under the wire, because this is when you could go in as long as you had the name of who you were going to visit. And I had all their names. So I just went in and I started knocking on the doors and introducing myself to them and offered to bring them anything that they might need. And then I noticed, like, day after day, the parents were in the same clothing. The guys were in their same, hospital gowns, of course, but all their gear was back in Iraq. And I realized at that point that the parents probably got a call at 3:00 in the morning wondering, they needed to get to Walter Reed and wondering how long they were going to be there, what to pack, and so forth. So it just became very personal to me. I have 4 children that were right in the same ages as these young guys and gals that I was visiting. And honestly, they were between 18 and 23. So it was a very young age. And I just, wanted to do as much as I could and help any way that I could. So, I started seeing moms crying in the hall, wondering how they're going to make a mortgage payment. And, my light bulb came on for me to help on a larger scale. And here we are 20 years later.
Right, and you're doing far more and above, I'm sure, anything that you thought was going to be the case when you were in the initial founding moments of Operation Second Chance. Let's go through the website here first before we really break into it. So it's operationsecondchance.org. Now, the website is chock full of information and resources. But Cindy, let's go through just the basics of what Operation Second Chance offers. So you're talking to military families, you're talking to military personnel right now. What is it? What are the benefits of Operation Second Chance? Why would someone say, you know what, I could utilize that organization's services?
Sure. Well, for the past 20 years, we've been providing emergency financial assistance to wounded, injured, and ill veterans. This ranges in mortgage payments, rent, utilities, travel and lodging. And all they have to do is the caseworker can reach out to us, or they fill out an application online. And as long as we have all their documentation, we're pretty quick to respond within 24 to 48 hours. We have a case manager on staff now that she takes it a little bit further, and she'll provide additional resources. If they've come into us with $12,000 debt and they're about to be evicted, we can't pay $12,000 per veteran that come to us, but she'll reach out to other veteran organizations too, and we'll kind of team up and say, if we pay $4,000, will you, and will you, we try to get the resources. And then she provides additional resources and follows up with them a month and 2 months and 3 months out and so forth. We also provide a lot of emergency travel and lodging. And then we're blessed to have Heroes Ridge, which is an amazing retreat center on the Maryland-Pennsylvania border. It sits at the top of the mountain and overlooks Gettysburg. It just feels like sacred ground up here. We have 4 cabins, a dining hall, rec center. We have horses, and it's just a wonderful time for couples to come and bond or families to reconnect. And so the retreats that we have are for couples, for families, for battle buddies, male veterans only, female veterans only, caregivers, which is we have this coming weekend because they're often forgotten. But a lot of times the women veterans are also often forgotten and overlooked. So we try to provide as many resources and internships and things like that too.
I remember, Cindy, that just goes to show you how time flies. I remember when you first were purchasing the ground for Heroes Ridge, and it was just you were sending me pictures, and I think there were a couple utility vehicles that were strewn about on the property. It was all covered in leaves because the fall had just ended. The leaves had finally given up and were laying all over the ground. Beautiful facility even at that point. And you said, well, Tiny, it just needs a little bit of work. And I said, well, if anybody can do it, you can. So could you take us through more of the Heroes Ridge and how that came about? Because I don't think people really realize the treasure that lies in our area with Operation Second Chance and Heroes Ridge.
Sure, absolutely. So let me go back quite a few years then to about 2011, and we were left in a will. The lady's husband was a Marine. He had since passed, but even further back, they had an 18-year-old son that they gave a souped-up car to, and unfortunately, he was killed in an accident and was never, never able to see his 19th birthday. And then the husband had passed, and she was 94 years old, and she had this little leather-bound table with 4 little stools and wanted it to go to a veteran organization. So we went and picked it up and took it to our office in Germantown. And that week I had families and children sitting at that little table, and they were coloring. So I took a picture of them from behind, and I wrote a handwritten thank you note and put our coin in there in that picture and sent it to her, just expressing how, our gratitude for the table. And next thing you know, she left us in her will for everything. Well, during that time, we were looking for property, and I honestly thought it was going to be about 25 acres or some, a smaller place. But then Heroes Ridge, well, it wasn't Heroes Ridge then. This used to be Lutheran church camp many years ago, like 70s, 80s, 90s. And then a private investor bought it and lived here for a short time. Didn't really do anything with the cabins or rec center or anything. And then, we came up here. My son and I came up here. It was pouring down raining. You couldn't see anything. It was so foggy. And then we came back 2 days later, and I realized, oh my gosh, we have to have this, especially since the view is just amazing. And I'd encourage your viewers and listeners to go online, and we have a PDF there that you could see some of these views. But the cabins were a total mess, and they just needed some TLC and love brought back to them, and now they're phenomenal. The families just have a great time when they're up here. We give them an ATV when they're here. We have about 5 miles worth of trails, and they can hike or go ATV riding. Sometimes we'll horseback ride if we have enough horses up here. And then with the horses, what we do is we have a roping champion that comes up and volunteers his time. So our veterans and family members can learn how to rope. We have a dummy steer heads on the ground. And then we have a life-size steer that we pull with an ATV. And it's just so empowering to see them. They're mastering roping the dummy heads on the ground, and then you top it off by putting them on a horse and chase this ATV around. Believe it or not, the faster you go, the easier it is. But it's so empowering. They can forget about their worries and their problems, and they can just be in the moment. And it's so cool to see all that.
I think anytime that we can do anything special that may be, and sometimes it's the most unconventional thing, Cindy, that really can be the biggest difference maker, things that you wouldn't think about. Like, I don't think anyone would believe how steer roping would benefit our military men and women who come home. And it does. It gives them a hobby, which can be anything. I mean, we've talked several times on Let's Talk Tri-State over the past few weeks with therapists and counselors, not necessarily military related, but finding different things that you can do. Maybe it's knitting, maybe it's, crochet. It could be taking up a sport. And in your case, steer roping. I know that's not all that you offer. I'm happy to read through this if you'd like, Cindy, but on your website, operationsecondchance.org/wishlist, you have just that. It's a wish list. And the reason I love this is because it lays out what you can do with each individual dollar amount. So, for instance, $500, well, Operation Second Chance will be able to do or purchase X, Y, and Z. So if you have that, you're welcome to read through it, or we can go through it together. Which would you prefer? Want me to take over here and read some of these?
Sure, if you want to. Can I just interject here?
Please.
We also have an archery range, and, that's very empowering for them, too. We've had guys and gals that are arm amputees, and we have an instructor that comes along, and she teaches them archery. And when these guys and gals thought they were going to go to their cabins and wait it out while everyone else did that, we said, oh, no, you're not. And she made this device that went around them, and they were still able with their good arm to push the bow out, or the bow, and then shoot the arrows with their chin. And it's just, that was so empowering, and seeing them smile. Yeah. But I'm sorry to cut you off.
That is incredible. No, by all means, I want you to share all of that, all the little anecdotes and little stories. I think they're great. So let's go through this again. We're talking with Cindy McGrew. She is the founder and CEO of Operation Second Chance, online, operationsecondchance.org. And you can check out operationsecondchance.org/wish-list. Now, much like Amazon will have a wish list where you can go on and purchase different things, this lets you know what your dollar amount donation can do. So let's start here. And Cindy, if you can interject anything on any of these, that'd be great. So, for instance, maybe it's a $25 donation. Well, that $25 can provide a swag bag, which Operation Second Chance likes to gift to each visiting hero, spouse, and child. Now, the swag bag, explain to the importance of something that may seem very small, and on this list is the basic of donation, Cindy.
Sure thing. We put T-shirts and sweatshirts, and we put a mug in there for the families. We want them to have a little bit of memento to take home. During the winter months, we also include a blanket. We put neck warmers and hats, beanies in there. So we just like for them to take a little bit of something back home from Heroes Ridge. Yeah.
If you go up to $100 will pay for one veteran to go horseback riding through beautiful Gettysburg battlefields, which I think that is an amazing experience. And think about this as something that the average person who's watching this or listening to this would like to do. And this is for $100. You can send one of our veterans on a horseback riding trip through Gettysburg. I think that sounds amazing, amazing, Cindy.
It is, and that's just a wonderful time too. When we have the veterans only, especially, a much smaller group like that, we're able to take them out there, and again, there's so much rich history through Gettysburg. And for instance, this weekend we have caregivers, and we're doing the carriage ride through Gettysburg this weekend, so that should be a fun time for them too.
As Cindy just mentioned, the carriage rides, $250 will cover a family ride in the carriage throughout Gettysburg. So it's nice enough to send one of our troops, one of our military men and women onto the battlefield to ride around on horseback by themselves. Imagine sending them as a family. $250 can cover a carriage ride through Gettysburg. And we're going to be going up in amounts here. You'll notice that trend. $500 will help to cover meals for a family retreat for two families. And I think, Cindy, as we progress further in these numbers, we only have 4 more to go. We may be getting into numbers that, if you can do it, great, but maybe a business listening or watching would like to cover some of these. $1,000 helps to cover the cost of flights to bring our hero families to Hero Ridge. $5,000 will sponsor a weekend retreat with all activities and meals included for 4 hero families, not just the heroes, the families. Jump up to $10,000. That'll sponsor flights for 4 hero families to attend a retreat at Heroes Ridge. And finally, $25,000 will go towards an indoor riding arena and naming possibilities for horse stalls. Now, speaking of the riding arena, are you not getting something delivered today, Cindy?
We are. We're having trusses delivered today. The arena is currently being built, and they were supposed to come tomorrow, but they're a day early, which is great. But the problem is one way in and one way out.
Right.
So it's going to be pretty exciting. We're watching the progress. The Amish are building the building, so it's a nice pole barn. It's going to be a beautiful facility that we can ride year round, not just in the cold months, summer months when it's so hot. We'll have undercover from shade and so forth.
Now, we talked about some donations a few minutes ago about these are more of experience type donations. Now, how about when it comes to emergency financial assistance? Let's go over what these donations, and by the way, I want to make it very clear, whether you have $25 or $1,000 or $10,000 to donate, even if it's $15, Operation Second Chance would gladly take your donation and put it to good use. But maybe it's emergency financial assistance and you're wondering, how would my donation help, or what does it take to do certain things? Well, a $250 donation will help pay for groceries for a hero family. We all know the price of groceries doesn't buy you as much as it used to, Cindy, but I'm sure you make the best you can and you probably have a lot of businesses who offer either deep discounts or even in some case, I'm sure free canned goods. Is that correct? I know you've worked with some of those.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. And then $1,000 will help to prevent utility shutoff. $1,500 will help with an emergency flight and lodging so family members can be together at critical times. I cannot imagine something going on like that where you can't be together and can't be with that loved one, but $1,500 will certainly help with that. $2,500 could help pay a mortgage or rent payment, which would prevent eviction. I don't think anyone should be homeless, especially our men and women in uniform. And up next, we have $3,500, which would provide a named scholarship for a high school senior of a hero toward college education. Cindy, I dare say you thought of it all, but I'm sure things constantly are coming in where you thought, oh, we're going to add that and we're going to add that, because you're not the type of person, at least that I've known over the years, when it comes to our military, who can say no.
I have a hard time saying no. Yes.
Yeah.
But so we're increasing programming each year. We did increase this year, so we've laid aside or have committed $100,000 to a 529 plan for children of the veteran families that come up here at Heroes Ridge. We also have given out $100,000 in scholarships to wounded veteran families this year. Once we get the arena done, we'll hopefully be able to go into some therapeutic programming that way. We don't use that word therapeutic up here because we know, just even recreational is so therapeutic for the families, and just being on this property is in itself very therapeutic.
Are you currently, Cindy, at Heroes Ridge? Is that where you have offices? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're here
That
now.
is so wonderful. Come such a long way from before. It was just the last that I had talked to you about this, like we said a bit ago, was very much so the beginnings, the infancy of getting Heroes Ridge outfitted, and here we are. You have your offices there already. You are basically working out of there all the time now. It's so wonderful. OperationSecondChance.org is the website. Cindy, we have a couple more minutes left. How would you like to tell more with our listeners, with the Let's Talk Tri-State audience, about Operation Second Chance? Are there any immediate needs? The holidays are coming up. When it comes to holidays, is there anything special that pops into mind that might be a special need?
Yeah, so we have a Christmas wish list. The holidays are a very difficult time for many, and especially for our veteran families. They want to provide for their families too, and they're on fixed incomes, and many are living below poverty level. So if we can, we've sent out a Christmas wish list to several families, and we've had a few businesses pop in there and say, well, we'll cover them, and either buy gift cards to the family and let the families go do the shopping themselves, or we buy the presents and have them sent directly to them. Yeah, just things like that. And any veterans that are on here, do buddy checks, call your buddies, make sure, they're doing okay. As I say, it is a difficult time for many people emotionally and financially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cindy, you could not be more correct. And I hope everyone who's listening and watching, we all have, I think, someone in our family or close friends who's been in the military and served their country very bravely. And I would say whether or not anyone saw combat, they were willing to. And just that they were willing to is enough for me, more than enough for me, to say I want to do what I can to make a difference. OperationSecondChance.org is the website. Get in touch with Cindy. Cindy, do you need help when it comes to volunteers, people who say, maybe I don't have any money to donate, but I have my time? Is that something you are open to?
Sure. We always have volunteer opportunities. We have retreats usually 3 weekends out of every month. It'll slow down now in January a little bit, but so we try to keep those open weekends for volunteers, whether it's cutting wood, raking leaves, or blowing leaves and things like that. But we can always use volunteers in our kitchen also. We have a lady that runs the kitchen, and she puts out a list if you're willing to come up and help prepare the meal or make the meal and so forth. Put the swag bags together, things like that too.
Maybe even, and forgive me if this isn't correct, but maybe you are an expert in a certain area. You already talked about archery as well as steer roping. Maybe you're someone who specializes in ATVs. And I'm sure those ATVs you have up there, Cindy, they need some maintenance from time to time. So there might be a mechanic who's listening or watching who might say, you know what, let me see if you need some work done on your ATVs.
That would be incredible. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I invite you, get in touch with Cindy. OperationSecondChance.org is the website. Cindy, we'll certainly have you back after the holidays, after the first of the year, but have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for all you do, and thanks for being with us today on Let's Talk Tri-State.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you, and blessings to everyone.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.